Tonight, Julian Assange's repatriation on the cards and a debate on press freedom. And is Ukraine's accession to NATO possible by giving up its territory to Russia? We cover stories about the removal of a Hindu speaker from the Parliament of Religions, an evacuation order for residents in the Northwest Territories, and calls to Canadians to boycott Facebook and Instagram. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Catherine Bullock. The United States is reportedly considering a plea deal that could result in WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange returning to Australia. An Australian media source reports that the US ambassador to Australia, Carolyn Kennedy, suggests that there might be a way to resolve Assange's 4-year detention in Britain. Assange, an Australian citizen, has been held in a London prison since 2019 while fighting US extradition efforts. He faces 18 criminal charges in the US, including violations of their Espionage Act. Kennedy's comments followed US Secretary of State Antony Blinken's rejection of Australia's plea to end Assange's prosecution. Assange's case involves the release of classified US government materials, including the 2010 publication of a video of a US airstrike in Iraq that killed 18 civilians, including journalists. There were also hundreds of thousands of field reports from the Iraq War. Kennedy's statement has raised hopes for Assange's family that a resolution might be reached to end his years-long legal battle. Legal experts say a potential plea deal could involve the US lessening the charges against Assange in exchange for a guilty plea, considering also the time he has spent already in prison. Assange's situation has garnered significant global attention due to its implications for press freedom and extraterritorial reach by charging non-US citizens under their Espionage Act. The US Department of Justice has declined to comment on the idea, and the State Department has not provided a response. The head of NATO has clarified that the decision on when and how to initiate negotiations to end the conflict with Russia rests with Ukraine. Jens Stoltenberg's statement comes after a controversy arose due to remarks made by his chief of staff, Stian Jensen. Jensen had proposed a scenario to end the war where Ukraine would give up land in return for NATO membership. This suggestion was criticized by Ukrainian officials, with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson labeling it as completely unacceptable. Speaking in the Norwegian town of Arendal, Stoltenberg emphasized that it is solely the Ukrainians who can determine the conditions for negotiations and acceptable solutions at the negotiating table. He reaffirmed NATO's role in supporting Ukraine during the conflict. The deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, suggested that for Kyiv to join NATO, it will have to relinquish Kyiv itself. NATO head Stoltenberg later expressed that NATO's stance remained consistent, supporting Ukraine and maintaining a policy unchanged despite the controversy. He also noted there have been no discernible shifts in Russia's nuclear capabilities that would prompt NATO to alter its own forces. During a previous NATO summit, the alliance affirmed that Ukraine's future lies within NATO, but it did not outline a specific timeline for membership. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has expressed frustration over the absence of a formal invitation and a clear timeline for NATO membership. The Government of Canada has tabled a response to a petition filed in June about human rights violations in Pakistan due to its current political landscape. The petition was presented to the House of Commons by Liberal MP Shafkat Ali. In response, the Government of Canada says it is actively monitoring the recent political developments in Pakistan. It assures that Canada will continue to engage in productive dialogues with the Government of Pakistan. It says Canada is dedicated to supporting democratic values, human rights, and the rule of law in Pakistan. It reaffirms that Canadian officials in Ottawa and the Canadian High Commission in Islamabad regularly address these concerns with key Pakistani government figures, the opposition, and local leaders. The response says Canada is also working to promote media freedom, and aid the development of civil society in Pakistan with an investment of $21 million over 5 years. Pakistan is a significant player in Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy, which outlines a comprehensive policy framework for Canadian engagement in the region. This strategy emphasizes support for democracy, inclusivity, accountable governance, and sustained economic growth. A group of 6 Chinese Muslims who completed Hajj this year are wondering what will happen to them once they make it back home. They embarked on the secret journey by defying China's strict restrictions on religious practices. These travelers from northwestern China evaded authorities by swapping their religious attire for casual clothes and left their village suddenly. China has imposed stringent measures aimed at restricting the religious activities of Christians, Muslims, and others. Despite China's control over citizens' international travel and their efforts to prevent private pilgrimages, these 6 managed to obtain passports. They faced challenges such as signing pledges not to complete the Hajj while abroad. Traveling through Malaysia, they eventually reached Saudi Arabia. They had to sneak into Mecca because China had prevented them from obtaining proper Hajj permits from Saudi Arabia. They managed to complete the pilgrimage. Once back in China, these pilgrims could face consequences for their defiance. Their determination highlights the lengths to which believers are willing to go to practice their faith in the face of government restrictions. This situation underscores the complex relationship between religious practices and state control. For more on the targeting of Muslim women wearing modest beachwear in Italy, stay tuned. A Hindu religious leader has been removed from the list of speakers at this week's Parliament of the World's Religions Conference in Chicago. This decision comes after activists expressed concerns about Nivedita Bidet's association with Hindu nationalism and her history of spreading Islamophobic disinformation about minority groups in India, including Muslims and Christians. Bidet, who is the vice president of a Hindu nationalist organization and was initially slated yesterday to address a plenary session. However, due to her affiliations and her Islamophobic posts on social media, she was taken off the list of featured speakers for the event. While the Parliament of the World's Religions has not provided a response to inquiries, Rashid Ahmed, the executive director of the Indian American Muslim Council, welcomes the decision. He says that the fact that Bidet was invited raises worries about other speakers who might also propagate supremacist ideologies. Bidet has been awarded a high civilian honor by the Indian government in the past. She is known to share content aligned with right-wing Hindu nationalists and has participated in events connected to the RSS, a Hindu paramilitary group aiming to establish a Hindu state in India. The Parliament of the World's Religions aims to foster harmony among various spiritual traditions and engage with institutions to promote a more peaceful and just world. This year's convention, titled A Call to Conscience, Defending Freedom and Human Rights, seeks to collectively address the challenges posed by authoritarianism. A group of Muslim women wearing modest beachwear have been targeted by other women at a beach in the northern Italian city of Trieste. The women were berated by a group claiming they should not enter the water with clothing on. The incident escalated as the group shouted, "You can't go in the water dressed like that." They prevented the Muslim women from entering. Defenders of the Muslim women pointed out their constitutional right to dress as they choose. Others, however, supported the harassers, citing hygiene concerns. Beach security was called to resolve the situation, and the beach owner intervened. It's unclear if the Muslim women left voluntarily or were asked to leave. This incident echoes a similar controversy earlier in the summer when a right-wing mayor wrote to the Muslim community urging them to respect the region's rules on beachwear and avoid Islamization of customs. Italy's constitution guarantees freedom, but northern regions have attempted to ban certain head coverings in the past. The Italian anti-terrorism law has been used to ban religious head and face coverings especially in regions controlled by right-wing or far-right parties. Several European countries, including France, Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Denmark, parts of Spain, and the Netherlands, have implemented bans or partial bans on face and head coverings. In 2021, the European Court of Justice ruled that public-facing employees who refused to remove religious clothing could be fired to maintain a, quote, neutral image toward customers. Critics argue such rules disproportionately target Muslim women. Flights will begin today for the residents of Yellowknife, the capital of the Northwest Territories in Canada, and 2 First Nations reserves, who have been ordered to evacuate their homes due to approaching wildfires. There are around 22,000 people living in Yellowknife. Emergency vehicles will lead cars from the danger zones to shelters in the province of Alberta. A tanker full of gas will follow vehicles along the route. Environment Minister Shane Thompson yesterday issued the evacuation order. She says the fire now represents a real threat to the city. Right now, the wildfire is around 17 kilometres or nearly 11 miles from the city. Like the rest of Canada, the sparsely populated Northwestern Territories has been burning this year as wildfires have ravaged virtually all 10 provinces and 3 territories. There are currently 1,067 active wildfires in Canada. 230 of them are in the Northwest Territories. An area about the size of England has been consumed in the fires, about 13.7 million hectares. Friends, a grassroots media advocacy organisation, is calling on Canadians to participate in a 48-hour blackout from Facebook and Instagram on August 23rd and 24th. The call comes after last month's Meta's news block took effect in response to Canada's Online News Act. The act is designed to make foreign tech companies compensate Canadian journalists and news publishers fairly. Despite this, Meta has restricted Canadian news access on Facebook and Instagram. Friends is also asking Canadians to contact their MPs to join them in the boycott. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Sound Vision, which is a not-for-profit organisation. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.